There are players that are great players over the course of a season, but situationally in the half-court offense, a Westbrook, a Giannis, a Ben Simmons, not great shooters, that they can be a little bit of a liability. And I did think the Bucks offense in the half-court set was pretty effective against Atlanta without Giannis. Do you think Milwaukee knows in the half-court set, sometimes taking him off the floor, gives Drew Holiday and Middleton opportunities they wouldn't otherwise get, right?
Yeah, no, and it also gives opportunities for Brook Lopez that he normally wouldn't have. He ends up being largely a three-point shooter to space the floor in order to give Giannis room to get into the paint and do what he does. So Brook Lopez becomes a completely different player, and you saw that in the absence of Giannis. Giannis is at his best, and the Bucks are at their best when he is actually the screen setter and the roller and doesn't have the ball in his hands unless he's catching it below the free throw line. That's when he can be effective, because then it's only a dribble or two. He gets 2 feet into the paint. Now he's his most dangerous. When he's facing up at the top of the key, quite honestly, that always scares me, because it's a turnover waiting to happen, and a turnover there is an automatic fast break bucket going the other way. So maybe the encouraging thing for the Bucks is seeing how Bobby Portis has played and how Brook Lopez has played.
Yeah.
And it may be a little bit easier to convince Giannis that less is more right now, and to allow these other guys to shine, do what he does defensively, do what he does rebounding the ball, play below the free throw line, but we're not going to play through you quite as much.
You know, if Chris Paul won the finals, and they'll be favored in game one, favored in the series, and I like Phoenix, I get more answers than I do questions. With Milwaukee, I feel like I get more questions sometimes than I want answers by this time in the season. I like Phoenix, but if Chris won and the Suns won, do you think it radically changes his legacy?
I do. Now, obviously, it depends on how they win and what kind of role that he plays. I saw something written about that he was the superstar who owned the conference finals. And for a guy who didn't play in the first 2 wins and had an off game in the 3rd win for the Suns, I can't say that he's the guy who owned the conference finals. I don't know that any player did. But if Chris Paul gives us more performances like he did in Game 6, or is just that stabilizing factor where we see the difference between them with Chris Paul and without them, then yes, adding a ring to a guy's legacy, whatever year you do it, however you end up doing it, changes the impression. I mean, honestly, he's already changed it by getting there. He was considered a great point guard, 2nd round and out in the postseason. By the very nature of getting to the finals, this puts him in a different category. So I do believe that it can have a huge impact. Some of it, though, has to do with how he plays in the finals. And I like the Suns, too, but I don't love them. This idea that it's a foregone conclusion that the Suns are going to win this series, I am not with that at all. I think that it's going to be a very competitive series, and I would not be surprised if the Bucks end up winning it.
You know, you could make the argument it's a transitional year. We've had years where that Dirk team won. We didn't think they were going to run it back. The Raptors team won. They're not going to run it back. Does this feel transitional to you? Like, oh, LeBron will get healthy. It'll be fine. I don't know. When I look at Phoenix, I'm like, I don't see him going anywhere. This doesn't feel like lightning in a bottle to me. Do you think this is a transitional finals, or the league is changing, it's getting younger, and it's going to look a lot more like this for the next several years?
I would agree. I do believe it's a transitional time. Who the powers are going to be going forward is a big question mark. LeBron James coming back. I mean, the Lakers, I don't like their future right now. LeBron's not going to get healthier. He's obviously not going to get younger.
Right.
Anthony Davis is not going to get less injury prone. And I don't know how many resources or assets. Actually, I do. I do know how many assets they have to reconfigure that team in a significant way, and there aren't very many. Now, which of these teams rises to the fore? Can the Atlanta Hawks, with all their young players, they're good for the next year or two, but then you have to start making decisions on contracts. The Phoenix Suns, once you pull Chris Paul out of that equation, or you pay him what he wants to be paid, which is an enormous sum,
right?
Then how is that going to crimp your ability to keep all those other pieces? What we have seen through these playoffs is that depth and versatility has been the winning card for all of these teams.
Yeah.
We like to think of these teams as star-driven, and they all have stars. But the teams that have been left standing as we moved forward are the teams that have a Bobby Portis coming off the bench, a Danilo Gallinari, a Kevin Huerter who can give you a game, a Bogdan Bogdanovic who gives you a game. Like, it has been depth and the ability to play big and small that has made the difference. And so I think the pressure is on the GMs to spend their money wisely and not to go with the old concept of, I just need to get 2 or 3 big stars, pay them a boatload of money, and then I'm going to backfill on everything else. That, to me, has not been the formula this year. And quite honestly, if you look at how the Toronto Raptors won, or even the Lakers last year in the bubble, it wasn't just the star power. It was, what's the quality of our 6th, 7th, and 8th man, and how do they match up with the opposition? And I believe the same is going to be true in these finals, that it's going to be a Bobby Portis or a Jay Crowder or some of the players down the line that are going to be the determining factor on who ends up winning.
Well, it's interesting. Let's say Chris Paul doesn't have a great finals, and Devin Booker's amazing, and DeAndre Ayton, they're just amazing. And they win the finals. Then, if you own the Suns, you're like, okay, do I want to go 4 years in on Chris? Because he's going to be, like, to your point, it is a punitive contract. It'll be interesting. If Booker and DeAndre Ayton just own the finals, I could see Phoenix sitting there, Rick, and going, all right, Chris, can we get a 2-year deal? That's when it gets really interesting. Now, if Chris is just magnificent, 18 points, 12 assists, 1 turnover, we only have about 45 seconds left. Do you think he'll get a 4-year deal, Chris Paul?
I do think he will get a 4-year deal, and I think it's going to be an albatross around the Suns. You're going to reward him for what he's done this year, but he's 36 years old and injury prone.
Yeah.
4 years at that number?
It
is a tough decision, no question.
Yeah, good stuff, Ric Bucher. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.